And now I would like to offer the microphone to my colleague who has requested it, and that is Commissioner Beeker.
Thank you, Madam President. It is really exciting to have three of the grandchildren to come and to participate in this meeting. Thank you all for allowing that. It reminds me when we were children. Teresa's here, the grandmother. Of course, she's orchestrating them. The difference of our federal government when we were children, and how then they did not punish success and they did not reward sloth. But with the crowd we have in D.C. today, with the wealth redistribution scheme, that is exactly what is happening. Back then, the federal government did not entrap people in a welfare state from which there is no escape. But these days, the federal government feeds, houses, and clothes people without providing an escape from it. They get into the cycle of welfare and they're trapped. The sense of pride which one feels in meeting your own needs cannot be found there. When I was a child, we would never have imagined that the federal government would send American citizens unemployment checks because they could not find a job to do, but endorse the idea that people who come into this country illegally could have those jobs. Nor would we have imagined that our federal government would impose restrictions on industry that are so stringent that American jobs and industries are threatened. Yet EPA regulations currently in effect and that are being proposed is exactly what we see. What happened to that government of the people, by the people, for the people? Now we have that same government of political correctness, by the multiculturalist, for the environmentalist. Recently, a federal district judge in Mobile ordered that a constitutional amendment passed in Alabama by 81% of the people who voted is unconstitutional. I say clearly that I support Governor Robert Bentley, Chief Justice Roy Moore, and other officials who have taken a stand against this usurpation of the rights of Alabamians. But this order must be viewed for what it is. Just another example of the federal government's overreach and refusal to respect its proper role. In light of the other actions taken by our government, we should not be surprised by the outlandish stroke of this judge's pen. We see the moral decline in our nation. You do not have to look further than the schools to find it. Just a few decades ago, the biggest problems teachers faced included students running in the hall, throwing spitballs, talking too much. Now problems include drugs, weapons, and teen pregnancy. Just this morning it was reported that a daycare located inside a public school has been closed due to the threat of a measles outbreak. A daycare inside a public school. That kind of thing, unthinkable a generation ago, is common in some parts of our country. Posted inside public classrooms, in its order, the Supreme Court said if the posted copies of the Ten Commandments, and this was in Stone versus Graham, where the United States Supreme Court struck down a Kentucky statute that required those commandments to be posted. They said, in effect, it will be to induce the school children to read, meditate upon, perhaps to venerate and obey the commandments. That's all that could do. The Supreme Court was right. As they say where I come from, even a blind squirrel can find a nut every now and then. But the results of the removal of God from the schools is as plain as the results of the attempted removal of God from all of the United States. Over the last 20 years or so, we have turned from God and His principles in order to be politically correct. Let me be clear, as Jesus said, to whom much is given, much is required. This country has been blessed much more than most countries in the world. Alabama has been blessed much more than most states in our union. The amount of our natural resources is staggering. Alabama is so blessed with that. Much is required of us, and God will hold us accountable for our rejection of protecting those resources and of protecting our Christian principles. Maybe the squandering of those resources is just one way in which we're being held accountable. We should regularly remind ourselves of the motto of our great state, "We dare defend our rights," and ask ourselves, what steps are we taking to defend these rights? Thank you, Madam President.